this one time, what the hell these guys were doing? They were hiding in between my house and this other guy's house. I'm not sure what they had. They had a bazooka gun of something, shooting balloons, whatever it was. But I wasn't sure what was going on, if they were. So anyway, I went out the back and I startled these guys, and they took off, and I took off after them. You know, and when I couldn't catch them, I got, oh shit. I used to be able to catch guys. I can't run anymore. So that was my first experience, like, wow, what happened here? You know? So yeah, I think I'm, being around you young guys, all my aging stories about, I just keep getting reminded about what you can do and what I can't do. But I don't get too depressed by it. I just get on with life. But yeah, those are the things that for me, and so I'm probably unique, teaching physical activity courses as well as theory courses. You, you see the young people active, and then obviously coaching athletes, young athletes all the time. So I'm always reminded of the vitality of youth and the capabilities that our human bodies have to run, jump, throw, kick, catch, move fluidly and quickly, and all those things that start to diminish as you get older.
And have you heard the term ageism?
Yes, and if I understand it, an ism, um, in this case, ageism is it's putting it on the parallel of racism and sexism.
Yeah.
So a discriminatory thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, yes.
So it's like being treated differently or
Yeah.
discriminated against due to your age.
Right.
So can you ever think of a time, or have you ever experienced ageism? And if you did, how did you handle it?
Yeah. No, I haven't. I haven't at all. And it's the only reason I can think of is just how I conduct myself and carry myself, even if I'm going and visiting another country or whatever. I don't know how old I am really until I stop and think about it, or when I look in a mirror. But yeah, most of the time I'm just not aware that I'm as old as I am, and maybe that's, you conduct yourself accordingly. Maybe things will change once I retire and I'm not surrounded by you guys anymore, whether I will start aging faster or thinking about it differently. But just all my experiences are, I just haven't felt any discrimination. If anything, I kind of felt lucky that, wow, I get a discount now.
Have you ever noticed ageism in sport?
Not too much. I mean, not more than probably anybody in the general public, where you read about athletes. Because, you know, so all of my experience, I'm working with university aged athletes, and they don't fall apart that quick. You know, it's usually the pros when they're in their 30s and some trying to extend it a little bit further, that they start to lose some of their capabilities. Matter of fact, I read this interesting quote that I gave to a few people when I decided I was going to retire, by Sugar Ray Robinson. And he says, you know, you wake up each day to make sure you're doing all the right things to make sure you don't slide. And then he says one day you woke up and you found you done slid. So, yeah, no, for me, I haven't had that.
So I guess you kind of answered this before, but have you noticed any of your athletes over the years struggle with their own concept of aging?
That's a good question, and I haven't right off the top. Nothing jumps out at me, but I wonder sometimes. Matter of fact, I'm meeting these next few weeks. We meet with our athletes that are returning to talk about their summer training, and also what went well for them last year and what they want to do this year. And I wonder sometimes, sometimes you come in, some of our kids come in and they're a real phenomenon in their freshman year. And then in their second year, for whatever reason, some of them just aren't performing up to that same level. And I'm wondering if it's old Shakespeare's, ignorance is bliss, or whatever somebody else said, a little bit of knowledge is a dangerous thing. So sometimes the innocence of youth and the naivety of it all, where you have no limitations, and then all of a sudden you get some limitations. And maybe some of you guys, even by the time you get in your fourth year, you start thinking, geez, now I'm getting old. All of a sudden, I've been going to school since I was 6 years of age. Now what do I do? So I think that happens, but I don't see it really drastically, if that's the word. It doesn't jump out at me.
So this is another reflection question, but looking back to you yourself as a youth, do you have any advice that you would have given yourself now with your current experience on aging?
Yeah, I wish in some ways I had had a better work ethic in my youth, as opposed to play ethic. In other words, I was fortunate enough to have a reasonable amount of athletic ability to do a number of things. So I was one of those all-around kind of athletes, a jack of all trades but master of none. So I never really worked at anything, and it wasn't until I started teaching, coaching here that I realized, if you want to be good at something, I did learn when I was at university. I realized, after I'd flunked my first university, that, you got to start working at things. So I think it's good to have a good work ethic. Don't, whether sometimes maybe I was afraid of working at something, and what if I ended up that I wasn't any better. So don't be afraid of working, and if it doesn't work out for you, that's okay. So that's one thing that I maybe would have wished I had thought of it a bit more. Apply yourself a little bit more, and than I did. That's about it.
As a child, how did you perceive the gap between yourself and your parents in terms of your body's capability, and then even more between yourself and your grandparents?
Well, I think I was always a very active child. I really never hung around the house, I recall. Even when I distinctly remember I couldn't be any more than, this is even before grade 1, they didn't have kindergarten. So I'm thinking I'm 4 or 5 years old, riding my tricycle, which would have been at least 2 kilometers away from home, down to the railroad area and down to the coal yards just to watch some trains, and playing in the coal, and coming home and trying to hide my clothes full of coal, as if, so I was always away, out playing and so on. So I was almost like, that play was for children. I don't remember ever playing with my parents. Never did, that I recall. And my grandmother was the only grandparent that we had. We lived in her house until I was about 13 or so, but that was just nanny, and but I never had any kind of game interactions, play with my parents or grandparent. Is that what you're looking at?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how do you define aging well? And do you think that you have aged well?
Yeah, I think I've aged well, and how do I find aging well? It's all luck. I'm convinced it's luck. It's your genetic makeup, and maybe, and I'm even sometimes wonder whether your genetic makeup has to do with whether you're upbeat or not, you know, if you're one of those half empty or half